Welcome to the Hire Revolution. Our goal and purpose is to inspire and educate human resources professionals here in the U.S. I'm your host, Eve Nasby, and we're here today to discuss some very relevant topics, hot topics, with human resources phenom Paul Falcone. Paul is a seasoned executive HR professional and the author of 10 books, including 96 great interview questions to ask before you hire, 75 ways for managers to hire, develop, and keep great employees, and 101 tough conversations to have with employees. You're going to love these books, and you're going to love Paul Falcone even more. So, Paul, thank you for being a part of the Hire Revolution today.
My pleasure, Eve. So nice to be here.
Well, you know what? You are a sought-after radio star, TV star, a featured SHRM speaker. We're just super blessed to glean from your wisdom today, especially in these turbulent times. So we're going to talk about how companies are thriving and hiring amidst the COVID-19 crisis. Paul, you talk about emotionally intelligent hiring in the COVID-19 era and getting inside candidates' heads and hearts. What, Paul, needs to change in the world of hiring to strengthen relationships and practically guarantee a better fit and higher performance?
That is a great question. Eve, part of it is the COVID piece. Part of it is the environment that we're living in, which is very tension-filled. The truth of the matter is it's hard. A lot of people have been laid off. A lot of people are looking to get back to work. People are working from home. They feel disconnected. A sense of isolation exists out there for those who are working away from the main campus or the main office. You throw in the political piece of this, which makes many people nervous. It's just a difficult time out there. And I always say when you get lemons, make some lemonade. And I think there's a way we can reinvent the way we're doing things. And what I've been writing about for a long time is what I call the emotionally intelligent interviewer. And the point is, most people, even if they're trained to ask the right questions, don't necessarily take the time to build trust with the candidate. So much that goes on in that first meeting is critical because it sets the stage for the expectation to follow, even if you don't hire the person. And I think I talk about getting inside their hearts as well as their heads in the sense where it's a time to begin the trust in the relationship. It's a time to make each other transparent and open. It's okay to be vulnerable. If you've ever seen the Brene Brown TED Talk on the importance of vulnerability, it's like a top 10 TED Talk. It's wonderful. But the point is, I'm not saying to add time to your interview. Because people say, I don't have time for this. It's like, no. Just swap out some of the old questions that you were using that were stale and put in some better questions. From the icebreakers that you ask at the beginning to really the questions used to launch into the interview. Make sure they're well thought out. And don't just start with a Q&A. Tell me your greatest strength and tell me your greatest weaknesses. The relationship isn't ready for that. You don't want to just jump into the Q&A. People feel like, it's like a tennis match. I better give them the right answers, otherwise I'm not going to get the job. The real opportunity in this is to find someone who can contribute to your team. And that starts by asking the questions a little bit differently from the very beginning.
So what kinds of questions would you ask to build trust, to encourage the openness and the transparency when you're meeting these candidates for the first time?
How did I know you were going to answer that question?
I don't know. This book has taught me a lot. Plus, you're a pretty good.
Yeah, the book helps. No, okay. So the idea is this: when you think about a typical interview, candidate sits down. The small talk is, "Well, did you find a parking spot outside? Did you find us okay when you drove here?" And then they jump right into the interview. And I think there's better questions that you can ask that will make you as a hiring manager more relevant and someone who the candidate can relate to. So if you open up and you say things like, everything aside from did you find a parking spot, how are you doing out there in terms of the job search? I know it's a tricky market out there, and I'm sure there are obstacles. I haven't been in the market myself for a few years now, but just wanted to check from you, how's it going? That's nice. It gives them a chance to kind of talk a little bit about what their reality is. You can then go into, Eve, before we even begin the interview, I want to get a little bit of a feel for what's important to you at this point in your career. I mean, if you had to choose 3 criteria in selecting your next company, your next job, your next industry even, what's important to you right now? And you'll be surprised. Candidates will be thrown off a little bit when you ask them those kinds of questions because they're not used to getting them. But what you're also going to see is the body language is going to relax a little bit. And as you move into these conversations with people and you transition into a discussion, that's as much about them as it is about you, you find that they'll be more relaxed. And every once in a while, Eve, as these interviews go on, they'll say things like, you know, Eve, I normally don't say this in an interview, but, and as soon as they do that, you've got the real person, their ability. And that's when you know they're beyond the hype of it all. And so don't get into the tennis match and the question, answer right away. Really spend the first 5-7 minutes getting to know them, what they're looking for. And especially with the millennial and the Generation Z cohorts, you're going to find that they're going to respond so well to that because they're younger. They're looking to make that imprint. They're looking for the trust. They're looking for the recognition. And the funny thing too, Eve, is you're actually moving the employee development construct to the pre-employment stage. Most candidates know that my boss will never ask me these kinds of questions about myself, even when I'm long employed in that company.
Right.
Doing it from the very first interview, you're teaching them this is important to you. That will be a magnet that lets them select you over other employers.
And how important is that with great candidates? Well, as the author of 96 great interview questions to ask before you hire, what is the most important interview question that an interviewer can ask?
Ooh, okay. For me, everyone has their own. For me, it's tell me about your favorite boss. I love that question because I want to hear where they go with it. You can tell I'm into employee development. I like this, career development.
Yes.
I've always worked with my teams and said, look, you guys, I want for you what you want for you. And I want you to focus on building your resume and adding bullets to your resume, which means you can add bullets to your LinkedIn profile. Because the more you get into this achievement mindset, the better it is for you and the better it is for the organization. And people look at me and they're like, you don't do that. I'm like, I do. I've never had any turnover. It's been very rare that people left while I was at the helm because I think they felt like I'm not going to get this somewhere else. So when you talk to them about tell me your favorite boss, who your boss is, and what made that person your favorite boss, listen to what they say. And normally they're going to describe that person's character. And so Paul, she was someone who really made me feel confident about what I was doing. She challenged me to do things I didn't even know I can do. For some reason, she made me feel like I could do no wrong. It was a pleasure working for her. She always included me and she made my opinion feel important. And now you've set them up to go down in a new direction in this interview to talk about, well, let's see what that might look like for you in your future if you were to come here. It gives you a chance to sell a little bit. But the truth of the matter is it gives you an insight to really where their values stand and whether that's a good match for you. And the final thought I'd say on this one is if you're a good hiring manager, it's not a technical match. 90% of the candidates who come in to meet with you have already been screened. They can do the technical stuff. You're looking to match that individual's personality to your department's culture. And is it a good fit and is it a good blend? And these are the kinds of questions that are going to get to the real person and get beyond the interview hype and all that other stuff. So it's, these are fun questions. Try them. I think you'll enjoy them.
I think we will, and I think we're going to get some great results, and I know that you have already. So Paul, thank you for your time and sharing your expertise with us here on The Hire Revolution. Please tell us where we can get more information from you and get in contact with you.
Oh, thanks, Eve. First of all, anyone is welcome to link in with me. I'm Paul Falcone 1 on LinkedIn, so that's easy enough, so feel free to send me an invite. And I also have an HR page or an author page. It's paulfalconehr.com. So anyone wants to get onto my webpage, you can find all my stuff there.
And you've just been starting to write for Homeland Magazine and San Diego Veteran Magazine. Both of those publications have a reach of over 4 million people per month. So looking forward to reading more articles on that. So thank you for that.
My pleasure, of course.
Well, thank you for joining us on this episode of The Hire Revolution, sponsored by Band of Hands. Be sure to like us on Facebook and follow us on YouTube. I'm your host, Eve Nasby, and we'll see you next time here on The Hire Revolution.